In the non-stop sprint of modern life, do you ever feel like you're just treading water? Chasing an ever-moving finish line of happiness and success, only to be hit by a wave of anxiety, uncertainty, and stress. The world around us feels more chaotic than ever, and it's easy to feel like we're losing control. But what if the solution wasn't to change the world outside, but to master the world within? What if a philosophy born over 2,000 years ago held the keys to building an unshakable inner calm, a resilience that can withstand any storm? The word Stoic has become a modern shorthand for someone who is unfeeling, cold, or emotionless. We use it to describe people who endure hardship without complaint. But that is a profound misunderstanding of what Stoicism truly is. It's not about suppressing emotions, it's about understanding them. It's not about ignoring pain, it's about not being controlled by it. Stoicism is a practical philosophy, a toolkit for living. It teaches us that while we cannot control the events of our lives, we can control how we respond to them. It is the art of separating what is in our power from what is not, and focusing our energy exclusively on the former. This isn't a self-help trend, it's a timeless operating system for the human mind. Today, we are going to dive deep into this ancient wisdom. We'll trace its journey from a humble porch in Athens to the desks of Roman emperors. We'll unpack its core principles and, most importantly, provide you with the practical exercises and mental models you can use to apply this wisdom to your life, starting now. This is a guide to living a life of purpose, virtue, and tranquility. This is the story of Stoicism. 1. The foundations of a philosophy. Our story begins in ancient Athens, a city teeming with intellectual life. The year is around 300 BCE. A merchant named Zeno of Citium, originally from Cyprus, is on a voyage when his ship is caught in a violent storm and wrecked. He survives, but he loses everything he owns. He washes ashore in Athens, a man stripped of his fortune and his old life. Finding himself in this new city, he goes to a bookseller's shop and begins to read. He discovers the works of Socrates, and is so moved by the philosopher's teachings on virtue and character that he asks the bookseller, "Where can I find a man like that?" At that very moment, the philosopher Crates of Thebes, a follower of the Cynics, who also prioritized virtue above all else, was walking by. The bookseller simply pointed and said, "Follow him." Zeno spent years studying under Crates and other philosophers, refining his own ideas. He eventually began teaching his own school of thought. But he didn't teach in a formal academy. He taught in a public place, a beautiful, painted colonnade on the edge of the Athenian marketplace, known as the Stoa Poikile. His followers were called the men of the Stoa, and so, the philosophy of Stoicism was born. Stoicism was not confined to Greece. Like an idea whose time had come, it spread across the Mediterranean world and found a new home in the heart of the Roman Empire. It was here, in Rome, that Stoicism became a practical, gritty philosophy for the real world, a guide for men and women navigating the highest echelons of power and the deepest pits of servitude. Our first great Roman Stoic is Lucius Annaeus Seneca. Seneca was a wealthy, influential statesman, a playwright, and an advisor to the Emperor Nero. His life was a whirlwind of political intrigue, immense wealth, and constant danger. He knew firsthand the fragility of fortune and the corrupting influence of power. His letters and essays are filled with advice on how to remain virtuous and calm amidst the storm of public life. Next, there was Epictetus. His story is a powerful testament to the philosophy's reach. Epictetus was born a slave. He endured physical hardship and a life of servitude, yet he was free in the most important way: he was master of his own mind. His teachings, preserved by his student Arian in a book called the Discourses, focus on one central idea, that our happiness depends entirely on what is up to us. This idea, as we will see, is the very bedrock of Stoic practice. And finally, there was Marcus Aurelius, one of the last of the 5 good emperors. The most powerful man in the world, who had everything a man could desire, still faced immense suffering, constant warfare on the borders of his empire, a deadly plague ravaging his people, and personal tragedies. His famous book, Meditations, was not meant for publication. It was his personal journal, his private thoughts, a conversation with himself, filled with reminders and philosophical exercises to help him stay virtuous and sane in a world gone mad. What these three men, a powerful statesman, a former slave, and an emperor, show us is that Stoicism is a philosophy for all walks of life. It's not about your status, your wealth, or your circumstances. It's about your character, your mind, and your ability to choose your response to life. 2. The three pillars of Stoicism. The Stoics were systematic thinkers. They believed a philosophy had to be a unified whole, and they structured their ideas around three pillars: physics, logic, and ethics. Think of it like a walled garden. Physics is the soil and the plants, logic is the wall that protects the garden from the outside, and ethics is the fruit that grows in the garden. For the Stoics, the goal of all three was to produce the fruit of a good life. We're not going to get lost in academic jargon here. We'll focus on how these three ideas connect to your daily life. Pillar 1, Physics, Metaphysics and Nature. For the Stoics, physics was more than just a science, it was a way of seeing the world. They believed the entire cosmos was a single, rational, interconnected whole, governed by a divine reason they called logos. This wasn't a bearded god on a throne, it was an impersonal, organizing force of nature. Everything that happens, the good and the bad, is a part of this rational, unfolding plan. This idea leads to a profound sense of acceptance. When a Stoic looks at a setback, they don't see it as a random, malicious event. They see it as a necessary part of the greater whole. It's the rain that must fall for the crops to grow, even if we don't like getting wet. It's a way of moving from fighting reality to working with it. Pillar 2, Logic, the art of judgment. Logic, for the Stoics, wasn't just about arguments and debates. It was a tool to protect our minds. The Stoics taught that our emotions aren't caused by events themselves, but by our judgments about those events. For example, getting stuck in traffic isn't inherently bad, it's our judgment that traffic is awful or ruining my day that creates anger. The practice of Stoic logic is about examining those judgments. When an impression or thought pops into your head, you don't immediately accept it. You pause, you ask yourself, is this true? Is this helpful? Is this judgment based on what I can control? Epictetus put it best when he said, "It is not events that disturb people, but their judgments about them." By training our logic, we build the wall around our inner garden, ensuring that only rational, truthful thoughts are allowed to take root. Pillar 3, Ethics, the art of living. This is the core of Stoicism, the practical application. For the Stoics, the ultimate goal of life was not wealth, fame, or pleasure. It was virtue. The Stoics believed that virtue was the only true good, and that living a virtuous life was the only path to a state of deep and lasting happiness, what they called eudaimonia. They identified 4 cardinal virtues that we must cultivate: wisdom, not just intellectual knowledge, but the practical wisdom to know what is good, what is bad, and what is indifferent. It is the ability to make sound judgments. Justice, the virtue of treating all people with fairness and kindness, because we are all part of the same human community. Marcus Aurelius believed that what harms the hive, harms the bee. Courage, the strength to face fear, not just on the battlefield, but in our daily lives. Courage to be honest when it's difficult, to stand up for what's right, and to endure hardship with dignity. Temperance, or self-control, the ability to resist the temptation of excess and to maintain moderation in all things. It's about being the master of your desires, not the slave. The key insight here is the concept of indifference. Things like wealth, health, and a good reputation are not inherently good or bad. They are indifferent. We can choose to prefer them, but they are not necessary for a good life. A Stoic knows that a person can be virtuous and happy even in poverty or sickness. Our job is to use these indifference well, guided by our virtues. This is the heart of the matter. The Stoic life is a life lived in accordance with these virtues. This is the fruit of the garden. 3. The toolkit of a modern Stoic. So, how do we actually do this? how do we take these abstract concepts and apply them to our lives? This is where Stoicism truly shines. It provides a set of mental exercises and practices that can be used every single day. Exercise 1, the dichotomy of control. This is the foundational practice, taught by Epictetus. Take a moment to think about everything that is stressing you out right now. Now, divide it into two categories, things you can control, and things you can't. You can't control the weather. You can't control what other people think of you. You can't control the outcome of a job interview. You can't control the past. But you can control your thoughts, your judgments, your actions, and your intentions. The power of this exercise is that it immediately eliminates all the energy you spend on things that are outside of your power. Instead of worrying about what might happen, you focus your efforts on the only thing that matters, your response. This simple division is your first step toward true inner freedom. Exercise 2, the premeditation of evils. This exercise sounds grim, but it's one of the most powerful tools in the Stoic arsenal. Premeditatio malorum means to premeditate on future misfortunes. It's the practice of mentally rehearsing a negative outcome. For example, before a presentation, you might ask yourself, what is the worst that can happen? My microphone could fail. I could forget my lines. The audience might be bored. This isn't about being pessimistic. It's about inoculation. By imagining these scenarios, you take away their power to shock you. You can prepare for them or, at the very least, accept them as possibilities. As Seneca wrote, he who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than is necessary. By contemplating the worst, we find that we are often far more resilient than we think. Exercise 3, amor fati, love of fate. This is a more advanced Stoic practice, and it's truly beautiful. Amor fati means, love of fate. It's the idea that we shouldn't just accept what happens, we should love it. We should see every single event, good or bad, as a necessary part of our journey. Marcus Aurelius called it, the loving embrace of all that happens. Think of a blacksmith. When they forge a piece of steel, they use fire and hammering to shape it. The steel doesn't fight the fire, it becomes stronger because of it. We are the steel. The challenges and hardships we face are the fire. With amor fati, we learn to love the heat because it is making us stronger, more resilient, and better equipped to handle what comes next. Exercise 4, journaling and self-reflection. This is arguably the most practical and accessible of all the Stoic practices. Marcus Aurelius didn't write meditations for a public audience, he wrote it for himself. He used it to reflect on his day, to remind himself of Stoic principles, and to hold himself accountable to his own values. You can do the same. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to reflect. Ask yourself, what judgments did I make today that caused me suffering? Where did I lose control, and what could I have done differently? Did I act with courage, justice, wisdom, and temperance? This simple practice creates a feedback loop, allowing you to learn from your mistakes and become a more virtuous person with each passing day. Part 4, Stoicism's lasting legacy. The power of Stoicism is that it never went away. It has been a quiet undercurrent in Western thought for centuries, influencing Christianity, the Enlightenment, and even our own legal systems. But in the last few decades, it has experienced a massive resurgence, and for good reason. Modern psychology, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is built on a key Stoic principle. CBT teaches that our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are interconnected, and by changing our thoughts, our judgments, we can change our feelings and behaviors. This is the very same insight that Epictetus had over 2 millennia ago. Today, Stoicism is a guiding philosophy for leaders in business, sports, and the military. It's a tool used by entrepreneurs to handle risk, by athletes to deal with pressure, and by people from all walks of life to navigate the complexity of their world with a steady hand. It's a testament to the timeless nature of these ideas. The Stoics weren't perfect. They were human beings who struggled and made mistakes, just like us. But they gave us a framework, a set of tools to use. They showed us that the path to a good life isn't about eliminating problems, but about building the strength to face them. Conclusion. So, how do you begin your Stoic journey? It starts not with a grand gesture, but with a small choice. It starts with a simple decision to be more mindful of your judgments. To pause before you react. To ask yourself, is this in my control? This is a lifelong practice, not a destination. It's about making a little bit of progress every day. It's about becoming a little bit wiser, a little more courageous, a little more just, and a little more in control of yourself. In a world that is always trying to pull you in a million directions, Stoicism is the anchor that holds you steady. It is the wisdom to know what truly matters, the courage to face what you must, and the tranquility that comes from living a life of purpose. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being truly free.